What you gonna do, brother, when Jeff Townsend Media runs wild on you?
What you gonna do, Luke?
Much you can do.
That's what you got to ask yourself. What you gonna do, brother? I have attempted to get some like red lights, for like a creepy effect in here. I haven't actually mastered that yet, so I'm still working on that. Let's get the banner going in here. Where's it at? Boom, there it is.
There it is.
Give it just a minute, everybody filing in. Looks like we're live everywhere. Where somewhere has an issue here. Yeah, TikTok's had an issue for some reason. I don't know.
That's weird.
Yeah, TikTok hates me. Trying to mess with it here.
Yeah, might as well take the time to
Yeah,
try
I'll
to get
give
it
it a
working.
second. I don't know if it'll work, but
Yeah.
I don't know how much it'll let me modify on here. Let's look here. Edit. Not letting me do anything with it. Okay. Just redo the dang thing then.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah, it won't take but a second. So yeah, we're getting live on 7 places right now, trying to fix the 8th here. Troubleshooting through real life issues here, man.
It's just the worst. When some random thing doesn't work.
Yeah, I got to do it for the 5 people that'll watch it there, you know, where they watch it way more everywhere else. Of course, I'm getting crazy about the one place. I'm going to see if that did it or not. Got people filing in, got people commenting.
Fantastic.
Banner, yeah. Oh, yeah, you got to go with the banner, guys. You guys know that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't actually know if it's going to work or not. Maybe not, but I tried twice. What more can a guy do? I'll just give it one more second here.
Yeah.
We'll get going. So you have 3 stories tonight, and I have 2.
I do have 3. They're all themed around a central theme because everyone and their brother is watching Fallout right now.
We should have got ahead of that and done a podcast that covers that.
Should.
I bet get it massive downloads. I'm talking massive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm something of an expert on that game series and everything.
Like analyze each episode, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Could have done that really for sure. Okay, well, I tried my best. It acts like it's working, but it is clearly not working. So with that being said, we will proceed forward without it. You ready for me to kick it off, man?
Absolutely.
All right. This is Jeff Townsend, and joining me, of course, is Luke, John Daly programmer. I just like saying that, man. How are you doing?
Good.
Yeah, guys, I know TikTok's not live. I can't get it to work. I just said that. Yeah, 5 people telling me that.
It's so weird. I don't understand it. We did have trouble with LinkedIn the first couple times we did this, but then after that,
I think it's just because we were so late, we missed like the window.
Oh.
But yeah, I've had issues with Instagram a lot. Never really TikTok, so but that's gonna hold us up tonight. Yeah, and it's so weird because people when they like to get cute and comment on the YouTube videos, like I don't think they realize this is like a live stream. Because content comes from a live stream. It's not like we're sitting here doing retakes.
Yeah.
It's real time reading the story, real time reaction. So a lot of people have a hard time, handling that. But yeah, so this is live on Mondays at 10:45. I'm just going to say that ish Eastern. Ish. What we do is we will share your scary stories live on the air, and that's what we're going to do tonight. Luke was talking about before. I don't know if we were recording yet or not, but Luke has some Fallout themed stories tonight because, of course, that's the sensation taking over.
Oh yeah.
Amazon Prime. I've watched the whole season already as of you, and it's just amazing. So
yeah, I love it, and I like actual true scary stories about radioactive things. So this should be fun.
Who doesn't? So yeah, I got weird shadow effects I need to fix in the studio one day, but I guess I'm not that worried about it. So yeah, man, I've got 2, you've got 3. We'll go with the usual where the person that has 3 will kick things off. I have 2 completely different ones. One I actually have a short video with something I found on the internet. Nice. Very short video, but very scary indeed. So I will let you kick things off as usual. Let me try to get this music going. We'll see if we can get it working. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Let's see if it works yet. Probably can't hear me right now. Yeah.
It always takes a second or two.
I think we're good. Everybody
Alright.
hearing it? I can't really hear it that well.
I can hear it.
I'm gonna kick it up just a little bit, not much.
All right.
Give it just a second for that new volume to settle, and we'll get going.
Yep.
All right, talk for a second. Let's test it.
All right. Can you hear me? All right.
Yeah, I think you're good. All right, I'm gonna mute up. It's your turn.
All righty. This is known as the radiological incident in Leah, Georgia. This is a pretty well documented case, but it's a very interesting one. On a cold December day in 2001, 3 men took their truck and drove 50 kilometers east from their village in Leah in order to collect firewood. The village of Leah is located in the district of Salanjika, approximately 320 kilometers northwest of Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia. Late in the afternoon, after the sun had gone down, the men discovered 2 curious objects. Lying in the forest path were 2 metallic cylinders. Around them, the snow had thawed up to a radius of approximately 1 meter. The wet soil was steaming. The objects were small, about 6 inches tall and 4 inches across, but they were extremely heavy. One of the men picked one up, but finding that it was hot, dropped it immediately. Encouraged by the unusual but welcome find, the men changed their plans. They decided that since it was getting dark, they would spend the night in the forest and return with firewood the next morning. They would use the hot cylinders, whatever they were, to keep themselves warm during the frigid night. One of the cylinders had holes in the frame. One man, using a strong wire, hooked it into the holes and carried the cylinder to an empty spot in the woods behind a large rock. There they lit a small fire to prepare dinner. The second cylinder did not have any holes, and the men lifted it with their bare hands and carried it to their makeshift camp for the night. The 3 men warmed themselves during the night using the small fire on one side and a hot cylinder behind their backs. After dinner, they drank some vodka and were settling down for sleep when they started to feel sick. They thought it may have been the alcohol, even though each had only had about 100 milliliters. None of the men could get a wink of sleep. About 3 to 4 hours after first contact with the mysterious cylinders, the men began to suffer from nausea, headaches, dizziness, and vomiting. The vomiting was very intensive and lasted throughout the whole night. Early in the next morning, exhausted from lack of sleep, they loaded only half of the gathered firewood into the truck and drove back to their homes. Late that night, one of the men had repeated intestinal distress. The next day, he went to the village doctor, but failed to mention his contact with the mysterious hot cylinders. The doctor assumed intoxication, and they also gave him a shot to treat a possible allergic reaction, and his symptoms dissipated. A week later, all 3 men began to develop redness, swelling, and painful blisters on their backs. After nearly 3 weeks of suffering, the men were admitted to a hospital in Zigdi, about 20 kilometers from Leah. There, they were diagnosed with acute radiation syndrome. The emergency medical center in Tbilisi was alerted, and the patients were transferred to the Institute of Hematology and Transfusion at the same city. The mysterious cylinders the men had encountered in the forest were strontium-90 sources that were improperly embedded in the forest. The radioactive sources were used to power the radio relay systems between the hydroelectric station and in Inguri and the Houdini hydroelectric station, which was under construction at the time. The block of strontium-90 was part of a radioisotope thermoelectric generator. It's also called an RTG, which is an electric generator that converts heat released by radioactive decay into electricity. They're used for low power things such as satellites and space probes and things like that in remote locations. After construction of the second hydroelectric station ended, the radio system lost its function and generators were left without supervision and control. By the end of the 90s, the generators were disassembled and the radioactive sources were supposedly safely disposed, but apparently not all of them. Of the 8 sources originally installed, only 6 were cataloged. The 2 that were missing were the ones that were found by the 3 victims. One of the 3 victims' injury was minor. He was discharged after a month of treatment. One was taken to Paris for burn treatment, and he was released after nearly 1.5 years. The third was severely injured. He was taken to Moscow, where he required multiple skin grafts. After more than 2 agonizing years in the hospital, he died of multiple organ failure.
Well, don't go picking up everything you find in the woods, I guess.
Yeah. When I first heard this story, I was like, wow, that's crazy. I imagine there was a lot of mysterious, radioactive sources that went missing during the fall of the USSR and everything like that. But every day in the United States, a radioactive power source of similar potency goes missing.
Really?
Yeah. So just about anywhere, a little tiny cylinder could be there that would be massively radioactive.
So when this happens, an angel loses its wings?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Every time they lose a radioactive source, an angel loses its wings.
What kind of area were they in, too? Like, in this expedition they were doing?
They're just getting firewood out in the forest.
The wrong forest, huh?
Yeah.
With no knowledge of what has taken place possibly in that area? Because it couldn't have been that far away from something, right? It said it was
just outside, a little bit outside of town. They were within
Yeah.
like a few kilometers of town.
It does make you wonder how they always dispose of that stuff,
Yeah, I mean, things go missing. Things get miscatalogued. You might have some people who don't know what they're disassembling. They don't know what they're doing, so they might not realize what they're throwing out is not just a piece of metal. It's something horrendous.
You gotta, it could be something completely horrendous. It's just, I guess you never really think about like the backside of that, because I know they had that like train derailment near Indiana, and they
Oh,
were disposing of that stuff, like, I don't know, an hour southwest of Indianapolis. So, I mean, yeah, it's got to go somewhere.
yeah. And it's you never know what's going to happen at some points.
We don't know much about these guys though. We just know they were, well, what happened to them. So
Yeah. I do know that later on that the International Nuclear Agency ended up sending a crew to retrieve those sources, and they actually had to train the people that they can only be in contact with them for a total of 50 seconds each. So like they would use like a tool to grab it, move it so far to the truck, and then they would leave, run away, and someone else would grab it with another tool and drop it into the tank.
So what year was this?
2001.
Jeez Louise, we're still that far behind in 2001? People are?
Yeah.
I say we, you know what I mean? We as human, I guess what I'm saying. You might as well just drink out of the thing, I think. That is crazy. So they get deathly ill.
Yeah.
You don't know why. But I mean, if you did get deathly ill, though, that wouldn't be like your first guess.
You
what was wrong.
No, you probably wouldn't think that you just encountered a radioactive, isotope.
You think they would say it was Loomis? just lupus, whatever what is it on the house? They always said it was lupus.
Yeah, lupus.
There's always lupus on house. Yeah. No, it wouldn't be. This is a pretty creepy one because I mean, I don't know if I go like messing with things in the woods necessarily like that. There's a lot of things you can find out there.
But you're talking like something the size of a coffee can.
Yeah.
So like you wouldn't think that would be something that would possibly kill 3 adult men just being around for a couple hours.
These guys are just puking up a storm.
Yeah.
And they failed to mention, but you wouldn't think like, hey, I messed with this thing in the woods and that's why I got deathly ill. You'd think like you ate something or
Yeah.
maybe like a tick got you or a bug or something. You
Y-
wouldn't think it was like something that crazy.
I say that, but at the same time, if there's like a mysterious coffee can shaped thing that is generating enough heat that all the snow is melted around it for
That
3 or 4 feet.
that's what people in the chat are saying right now. Actually, it's if something generating that much heat, I don't think I would be messing with it.
Yeah, because that does seem like there might be something up there.
So that length of time, it was still doing that, still that melting the damn snow.
Yeah, because it went missing in the 90s.
Jeez, so it was 2000. Yeah, wow,
It was
that's
just sitting out
crazy. I'm gonna blame the Cold War.
there.
That's a pretty neat story. That's a good setup for the rest.
Yeah.
Is that like is that easing us into the rest or?
Yeah, because the next two are much more famous incidents, but they all both have two really neat people's stories of people who survived them. And
Okay.
And I think they're scary in the sense that this is something that happened and it's a nightmare that they went through it.
Well, I'm excited to hear them then.
Yeah.
I guess that brings up to my turn here.
Yep.
Start getting ready here. Got to pull it up on my phone. I've got this one in Microsoft Word on my phone. Okay, so WrestleMania was last weekend. Of course, I watched it. So there's actually this story about something scary that happened to somebody WrestleMania weekend.
Oh, nice.
WrestleMania 40 scary story. So I'm excited about this.
Cute music.
Still doing it. Just a minute. How do I sound now?
You sound
Good now?
Yep.
All right, I'll get going here. Again, with the events of WrestleMania happening last weekend, I thought the story was awesome. It's WrestleMania 40, scary story. This happened to me last Saturday. I'm college age, but for the 11th straight year, we continued the tradition of watching WrestleMania at my uncle's house. My uncle and I have bonded watching professional wrestling since I was a young child. The last couple of years, they had 2 nights of WrestleMania. This year, I plan on spending both nights at my uncle's house. I had never been so excited about Mania, The Rock returning to the main event in his quest to stop Cody Rhodes from finishing his story. We planned the whole day around this. We watched the previous night's Hall of Fame. Paul Heyman was inducted in the Hall of Fame. My uncle is a huge ECW fan, so he was having a fun time seeing this, and I was watching the enjoyment that he was getting from experiencing this. We grilled out in the hours leading up to the show while watching the pre-show. It was an action-packed 4 hours during the show, an action-packed 4 hours of wrestling, ending with The Rock and Roman Reigns picking up the victory over Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. The show ended before midnight, but the excitement and banter about the event carried on for at least another hour. Eventually, I retired for the evening and went to the guest bedroom. My uncle's house has 3 bedrooms. 2 are on the front side of the house. The guest bedroom, is on the back side of the house. Also on the back side of the house, slightly down a hill, is the entrance to the walk-in basement. As soon as I laid down in bed, thunderstorms started moving through the area. I was excited because I absolutely love sleeping through storms. The sound of the rain and thunder really helps me sleep. This proved true because it didn't take me very long to fall asleep. I woke up a few hours later. At first, I wasn't sure exactly why I woke up, but I realized I was hearing a strange banging, almost like a clanking sound, if that's even a word. Honestly, I just assumed it was the storm and I attempted to go back to sleep. But as I laid there, I continued to hear this strange noise. I no longer thought it was the storm because I kept hearing the noise, a continuous clanking, banging sound. It kind of reminded me of what it sounds like when you take an aluminum baseball bat and you tap it or hit it against a metal pole. After listening to this for several minutes, I was convinced the sound was fairly close to me, but coming from outside. I decided to get up, head towards the window, and check this out. I raised up the blinds and attempted to look outside through the window, but couldn't see anything. But I kept hearing the sound. Keep in mind, it was probably 3 in the morning and in the middle of a thunderstorm. Because I couldn't see anything, I closed the blinds and sat back down on the bed. I was debating on going back to sleep, but that damn sound just kept happening. It was still happening, and it seemed to be getting louder. I decided to take a step further and went back to the window, raised the blinds, and opened the window. Immediately, rain started hitting my face, and rain droplets started filling the window sill. I stuck my head out the window and looked right towards the driveway area and didn't see anything, partially because it was dark, but lightning was filling up the sky every 5, 10, sometimes 15 seconds, allowing me to get a brief view of my surroundings. I looked to the left as lightning struck, and I thought I possibly saw a shadow or something on the same side of the house near the basement door. The thought of what it could be immediately sent cold chills throughout my body, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up as I waited for the next round of lightning to get a better view of that area. When the sky lit up again, I could see a person in what appeared to be a raincoat. This person was striking the basement door handle with a hammer or something. Fear consumed all of me, and I remained completely still. I know this probably sounds ridiculous, but I was afraid. I felt like I couldn't even move. But shortly after, I did. When lightning lit up the sky again, I could see that person had started walking towards me, or possibly running. I couldn't tell. Anyways, I didn't wait. I slammed the window shut and locked it. I darted out of the room and started running across the house towards my uncle's room. Halfway through the house, I heard that person banging on that guest bedroom window very hard. I ran into my uncle's room and woke him up out of his deep sleep. He seemed very confused at first, but it didn't take him long to react. He jumped up, ran to his closet, grabbed his shotgun, and left the room, headed towards the front door. He put on his boots and ran outside in just his boxers with his gun. I waited inside. Wasn't very patient because of concern. This felt like hours. It was probably just a few minutes. A lot of things were going across my mind. My uncle's safety, and who was the person behind this madness? He finally returned, breathing heavy and covered in mud and soaked. He told me he ran towards the back of the house and he thought he saw a person running into the woods nearby. He said he approached the woods, stopped before entering, but did see shoe prints in the mud going into the woods. He didn't feel safe chasing the individual any further, so he decided to come back in the house. For whatever reason, he didn't feel like he needed to call the cops, and he elected to remain awake for the remainder of the night to protect the house. I obviously couldn't fall back asleep after this, so I decided I'd stay awake with him on guard duty. I'm not going to lie, I was so afraid whoever that person was would return. Luckily, that never happened. Eventually, the storms passed over and the sun finally came out. That morning, a few hours later, my uncle and I went to the basement to check out the damage on the door. That person inflicted quite a bit of damage, nearly completely destroying the door handle and lock. Luckily, this basement door was made of steel. Anything weaker, I'm sure the person would have made it into the house and done God knows what. A few hours later, I decided I would go home to my parents rather than staying another night at my uncle's house. I enjoyed WrestleMania Night 2 at my parents' and watched Cody Rhodes finish his story by defeating Roman Reigns for the championship in what I consider the greatest WrestleMania ever. I have checked in with my uncle every day since, and he tells me nothing else has happened. I'm still confused and concerned about what that person's intentions were.
That's crazy. That's really creepy.
When I first read this, I was like, what is, like, I kept hearing clanking. Then when they said like that the aluminum baseball bat hitting the pole,
Yeah.
I understood what it was then connected the dots, obviously, when they talked about the hammer hitting the lock. You could picture that sound in your head, right? Like that. Ting, ting, ting.
Well, yeah, because he even mentioned he had like a steel door, like kind of like a metal door.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I have actually had to do that once because it was a door that was like the door was locked and we couldn't get the keys and everything. So I've had
beat it with a hammer.
Yeah, to get in. And you can picture that noise. I can picture that noise perfectly. And yeah, it's just really good, description of it. And yeah, that was crazy. That would be a nightmare to see, and then like being during a rainstorm, that just makes it even worse. Like
that's just so weird. Someone just hammering away at this door. That'd be traumatizing. Let's see here. We got people making comments. Hey, Nikki VT. Game of okay, this is from the last one. Deadly game of hot potato. That's from the last one. We got you mean 2 weekends ago? I don't know what you're talking about. It was WrestleMania was last weekend, not this weekend, but the one before. I don't know. I just read the story. The Undertaker, somebody said makes you want to have a security room with security cameras. Yeah, it makes you realize that not every even though so many people have security cameras, not everybody does. I mean,
Yeah.
I do, but
Yeah, and it's like even then, it's like during the night, like a stormy night like that, visibility would be terrible. You wouldn't be able to see very well on it.
let's see. It's the Undertaker. Yeah, well. How did you
Yeah.
like how he made sure he threw in the celebrate the WrestleMania though?
Cody Rhodes, I mean, you got it.
Some dumb fuck, I don't know who is on here, is it's when they submitted the story, asshole. I don't know who is saying these things, questioning if it was last weekend or whatever. It's when it was the weekend when they shared the weekend before they shared the story. Story's not from today. I didn't say it was from today. Jesus Christ. So ridiculous. Got 3 people making comments about it. Psycho trying to get in, no good intentions at all. Yeah, I don't know why you'd be taking a hammer to somebody's door. It sounds like it was like a rural area.
Yeah.
You know, like because there's woods by it. So
I mean, either this person was completely unhinged and he was just going in there to kill him, or maybe he thought there was something worth stealing from this house. I don't know if it's like a really nice house in some way.
he didn't give any details about the house, and
Yeah,
there
so-
was he hadn't actually followed up on any comments that people had replied. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They could have just been a burglar. Maybe they assumed everybody was out or something. Who knows? Or maybe thought he could get in.
why would you
during
pick the
the-
hardest door to go through though?
You know, it's possible a bad plan that had a hitch in it right then. He probably didn't think through. Probably didn't think that that door was so secure.
How long do you think he was hammering at that door? I mean, he woke up from it eventually, but I mean, how long do you think this could have been happening?
Probably several minutes. Probably close to 10 minutes.
I don't know what I like. There's a lot of things I think I would do, but I don't actually know if I would stick my head out the window.
You know,
But that's a really messed up sound.
yeah, I guess I might if I was like really tempted to just try to get a look. But yeah, it would have to be a sound that makes me go, "What the heck?"
Would you run out in your boxers like the uncle did? You'd have to, right? You got to
I mean,
react,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I've thought about it in the past when I hear something outside and I'm just like, I can't tell what the hell that was. I was like, I'm just gonna run out there. But then I usually figure it out beforehand. I was like, oh, I don't need to go out there.
This is like the Battle of Fort. What was the fort?
Fort Ticonderoga.
Yes, with the pants.
Yes, with the pants. It was
yeah,
the
the heavily debated
Ticonderoga.
pants thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's easy to say you'd put on pants, but that takes time.
And there's probably a painting of this person without pants on.
Yeah, Ticonderoga. Yeah, everybody's getting in on it now. Yeah, that was a great episode of America Stories, by the way. But yeah, I don't know. This is a cool story. I thought it was, because I did watch WrestleMania. I thought it was cool. Then I read this. I'm like, thank God this didn't happen to me WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah, that would ruin the whole experience.
It sounds like he's a pretty good trooper. Right? I mean, would you stay another night though, for the sake of tradition?
Yeah,
Or would you go back to your parents?
I would stay just because of the fact that like I would want to help keep them safe in some way.
Would you have called the cops?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. As soon as I saw the guy, I'm assuming they had a cell phone, I would have just called the cops immediately.
Isn't it weird that people still don't always call the cops?
Yeah.
And it's so easy to call the cops. That just shows you people. That's like a normal thing though. People just don't call the cops.
And people just don't like talking to the cops.
Yeah, like I'm gonna, I guess, handle it on my own. I don't know.
Yeah. I can take this guy.
Yeah, I'll take this guy with the hammer. So would you chase them out in the woods further?
No, absolutely not. Yeah, stopping at the woods edge, that's definitely the best plan.
Well, I was worried when I read this he was going to go into the woods.
Yeah.
And it was going to be like a whole thing. Then it stopped at the woods. I was thinking, thank God, because going into dark woods, you're already at a disadvantage,
Yeah. Yeah, that would have gone really bad.
Would have gone really bad. Well, I enjoyed that one, dude.
Yeah, it was great.
It's a little bit different than yours, but we'll go ahead and check back in on what you're doing.
Yeah, mine are different than anything we normally do.
Those are the fun ones sometimes.
Yeah.
You even had a music drop here.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you.
All right. Well, let's just hope it works properly.
Fingers crossed.
Yep. All right. This is Escape from Chernobyl. Also, he starts with a start of this. His English isn't his first language. When he typed this out, he said there might be some grammar problems. He says, "My name is Yuri. I'm a musician in taverns of Northern Europe for drinks and for the generosity of patrons. I was a once classically trained pianist. I studied at St. Petersburg Conservatory in the late 1970s. I have lost my eyesight, and I have numerous illnesses, and I am a survivor of Chernobyl. As the disaster first occurred, I was in a state-sponsored musical dance troupe. Our gathering was immediately enlisted by the government to calm village peoples in Pripyat and the surrounding area around Chernobyl. Mere hours after the meltdown commenced, our bus entered the exclusion zone at checkpoint Dityaki. We were not told anything, and the soldiers made it forbidden to speak to the village people. Imagine not knowing a disaster was taking place, yet seeing the strange workings of the radioactivity all around. People were getting sick, they were dying, they were quarantined and not allowed to leave the zone. Some believed the world was ending. We all became resigned to the fact that we were going to die. The soldiers had masks and guns, but I could see the fear on their face too. As dead men and women, we gave our best performance ever. Allow me to describe our final performance at Pripyat. As the music played, the ballerina danced like never before. The passion in the music and her movements were legendary. She was a beautiful girl dancing her final dance with love in her heart. She allowed her long, flowing hair down, and it seemed to float mystically in the air. As the music crescendoed and she spun delicately around, her hair was flying away from her head. Gently, long gold strands of her hair floated to the floor as she danced. I saw blood leaking from her nostrils and down cheeks from her ears. The sparse crowd knew that this was the start of something bad. The children ran to her with flowers from the meadow. Their hair and teeth had started to fall out over the past few hours. The petrol generator stalled, and for several moments we were in darkness. I swear I saw the flowers glowing. That night, I climbed out a window of the lodging house. The soldier, who saw me before, saw me again. He lowered his carbine when our eyes locked in silence. I ran through an alley and I hot-wired a car. I drove nonstop to the northwest on back roads. I learned as a boy, avoiding checkpoints imposed by military. I siphoned gas from other vehicles in the night. I began losing my vision during the flight. And by the time I escaped the USSR, I was completely blind, and I'm the only musician who lived. You're muted there.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I was unmuted. That's pretty wild. A lot of comments in the chat asking why they kept playing, why they continued, why they kept playing.
They were basically held at gunpoint. So they assumed that they were going to die. He just made a run for it at the end.
That's crazy. How are those people alive still?
Yeah, I don't know. It's really, really creepy. It's a creepy story, and it's
this is like your fucked up stories. Like I don't even know what to say to that. That's crazy. Picking the flowers, like so. The person said English wasn't his first language, but when you start talking about the flowers and her hair flapping in the wind, and sure pretty crisp there with his language. I thought.
I was kind of self-editing as I was going along.
Okay.
There was definitely some grammatical things in there that were like, okay, that's not the right word. I was going to change it for this one because this is the way it's supposed to flow. But yeah, there were a few things that I was like going, okay, here we go.
People are asking who forced them to stay and why.
The Soviet soldiers. They were
Not
supposed to.
familiar, I guess, with the situation.
Yeah, so they were in the area. They knew that this was happening, but they were kind of being pressed into keeping people calm while they were sorting out what was going on during Chernobyl's meltdown. And it was already too late for most people that were in the area.
But you still, just like everything else in life, you still have these stories that come out of it, you know?
Yeah,
It's pretty fascinating.
yeah, it is. The whole Chernobyl meltdown is one of the more interesting stories of nuclear power gone awry.
What year was that?
I don't remember the actual year.
I don't either. This person's a survivor, though. It's they're obviously aged.
Yeah, yeah,
They thank God for the internet, you know? Like,
yeah,
what would you do? You'd just be relying on people writing stuff down and then somebody sharing it, you know?
yeah,
Which still might be the case, but nevertheless, you can post it on the internet and
yeah,
get that experience from it. That's crazy, though. And that's just like one story of endless stories that are,
yeah,
we can classify them as messed up, scary, or whatever, you know?
yeah. And this one has a lot of similar things with my next one. So, like, I saw this one first. Oh, that's a good one. And then I found my next story. And I was like, oh, this is the crescendo for the night for me. I'm just going to end off on this next story. So, yeah, these stories in particular, though, because like nuclear power is wonderful on many accounts, but
Yeah.
wonderfully dangerous on others. So like you have to treat it with a respect that you don't even treat gasoline with. It's like
Yeah.
we mess around with petrochemicals like crazy, but nuclear power is so much more powerful that it's insanity to think of what can happen when something bad happens with it.
But I
And
mean, but here's the thing, though. It like you talk about that. It's not the nuclear power, right? It's a person that either makes an error or is handling this nuclear
yeah,
power
yeah,
that's behind it all. That's the scary part. It's
yeah.
not obviously the it itself is terrifying, but it's the people behind it in this, and the Soviet Union during this time were pretty
There was
ruthless.
there was a lot of mismanagement. There's still mismanagement today across the world, but yeah, there was a lot of mismanagement with how they handled the reactors, how they handled uh, their energy sources, such as those little thermal generators that those one guys ran into. Uh, and it's scary. They're terrifying, really, because it's like an evil force that you can't see that's killing you, and
Yeah,
it's 100% real. Like there's no question about radioactivity being a thing. So like,
yeah. It wouldn't be a thing without people, though.
yeah,
This is a it just we're talking about Fallout, and this is obviously inspired by Fallout. Just think about a like these are just small scale things in the bigger picture of the world.
yeah,
Think about a big, like a huge scale thing, and yeah, forced to stay there. That's pretty messed up. I
yeah,
guess at that point in time, where would you go though?
yeah. I mean, if
How much
you,
exposure is that? I don't know the science behind it.
yeah, I remember hearing at some point, but I didn't really get numbers again. But it was a fairly extreme exposure to radiation to a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. There was I want to say good story, but it's sad. I mean,
Yeah,
another your sad stories night. But AGB, man, they're wild. Soviet Union, all them cats back then. You just it makes you wonder if you're in like an area where you're completely defenseless too, right? Like things could have gone really bad here,
yeah,
but some places just defenseless on it against them.
yeah,
People are
yeah,
let's look in the chat here real quick. A
yep.
lot of comments about it's crazy how that person survived. It makes you wonder like how passed down was this story?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this was like being translated from another person that's writing it down or something. I don't know. Uh, but it's really interesting when you think about how people survive certain crazy events. Like we've had stories about the what was the name? But the guy who fought the bear,
Gene Mo.
Gene Mo. Yeah,
Hmm.
he survived that. You got the one fellow who he had that boulder on his arm, and he had to actually breaking his arm off with or cutting it off and something.
Yeah.
I you have all these things that people survive. They're just, you don't think a human being can survive that, but they
Yeah.
do. And so, like, someone surviving this, and as sick as he got, and ended up going blind permanently from this.
You think Gene Mo could have got the bear if it was radioactive?
Yeah, I still think he could have taken the bear.
That would added.
He would have taken the Fallout bear.
You're talking the one directly from the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was terrifying, wasn't it? That guy's like, "Oh shit!" He starts running. Such a great show, man. I'm just amazed by that. 1986 is the year our moderator finally came through.
Okay, yeah. He said that he was trained as a pianist in 1970. So
Hey, I think that was a pretty neat twist in there, right? I mean, this guy's a pianist. He's very musically gifted.
Yeah.
And great detailed description of beautiful women too. So I'm always for that.
Yeah, everybody.
She's a good girl. She's crazy about Elvis.
Yeah.
You think
So her hair started falling out and blood started raining out of her eyes.
Yeah, and who are you to define beauty, Luke?
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to ask you. Cool story, dude. Man, messed up though.
Yeah.
Cool is such a weird word to use, but like you never know what you're going to get on this show. That's kind of the cool thing about it, right?
Yeah, that's what I enjoy about it.
A pretty broad scope of things. And with that being said, dude, my next one here, it's a doozy. It's a short one. So this is a story that went viral. I got to pull it up on my phone. This was actually about 4 or 5 years ago now where this thing went big. So I have daughters, right?
Mhm.
And my oldest was really into Frozen, that movie.
Yeah.
It was a huge Disney box office success. I've probably watched the movie about 100 times. You know how it is when a kid, they just watch the movie
Yeah.
over and over. I wasn't watching on my own, just for the record.
Yeah.
Maybe I was. I don't know. Judge me if you want to. But anyway, so this centers around that. So this actually went pretty viral. It's about a haunted Elsa doll. So
Weird.
I'm gonna cue up. Yeah, I'm gonna cue up the music. We're gonna go with it here. I'll give it just a second. Are you ready? Can you hear me? I can't even hear you, so you can't hear me. Give it a second, then I'll come through. Can you hear me now?
Yep,
we're good. Okay, cool. All right, you ready?
Yes.
Here we go. This is actually a news article from, I want to make sure I get it right. Click.
Oh, hang on. The audio started cutting out again.
What about now?
Now it's good again. That's weird.
I think it's changing to the next song right now. Sounds like it to me.
Yeah,
You hear it
probably.
too?
Yeah, it is.
I'll give it a second. All right, am I good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so this is actually Clicked to Houston is the source here. It's a news company, news organization in Houston, Texas. I called it Haunted Elsa doll, but this is actually the name of the article. They can't let it go. Haunted Elsa doll returns to Houston family after being thrown out multiple times. Here we go. This is from January in 2020. On Christmas of 2013, a Houston area girl was gifted an Elsa doll, and all was well, until it wasn't. The doll recited phrases from the movie Frozen and sang "Let It Go" when a button on its necklace was pressed. For 2 years, it did that in English, Mother Emily said. I think it's Emily Madonna, if I'm reading that correctly. In 2015, it started where it would change between Spanish and English. There wasn't a button that changed this. This just happened randomly. The family has owned the doll for more than 6 years and never changed its batteries. The mother says the doll would randomly begin to speak and sing even when the switch was turned off. In December 2019, the family decided to get rid of the doll. However, Elsa wasn't going to let this family go. Despite throwing it into the trash, the family found the doll inside of a bench in their living room weeks later. The kids insisted they didn't put it there, and I believe them because they wouldn't have dug through the garbage outside. This was in the outside garbage. And it goes back inside into the bench. That, you know how you have like a storage bench in your house? I'm looking at the picture here, but which I guess it's not really relevant. But yeah, it ends up back in this bench in this house. They find it weeks later. Blows my mind. Kids said they didn't do it. Elsa completely stopped operating in English and began to only speak and sing in Spanish. And we'll actually have a video to share afterwards on this. Once again, the family attempted to throw out the Elsa doll. Her husband double bagged the doll and placed it at the bottom of the garbage can outside the day of trash day. The family traveled and forgot about it, but when they returned, their daughter found her old friend outside of their house. Okay, this is a quote here. Okay, guys, seriously, we need help. To recap, for those of you who have not been following our Elsa doll saga, Matt threw it away weeks ago, and then we found it inside a wooden bench. This is her on Facebook. Okay, we were weirded out and wrapped this up and put it in the bag in the bottom of the garbage can outside on trash day. And put that bag inside of another bag and filled it with garbage on top of it and put it in the bottom of the can. So they went out of their way here. Great, right? We went out of town, forgot about it. Mom, I saw the Elsa doll get in the backyard. This is the first thing her daughter says when she gets home. This doll, and I don't know if you can see the picture here. This is fucking. Okay, let me try to show you my phone. This is between the, like, outside of the house, like the air conditioner's over here. So it's in between, like, the house here outside. So they get home from vacation and they find this doll out there. They left right before the trash was picked up, and this doll was wrapped away, all that. It's outside of their house when they get home back into town. This is crazy. When asked if she believed a prank was being pulled, she said the doll has some marker on her from my daughter coloring on her over the years. So I know that the doll that reappeared was the original and not the replacement. Most logical thinkers believe it's a prank, but I don't understand how or when it was done, especially because the garbage truck had taken it away. The family has made a final attempt to get rid of their doll, her daughter's old doll, but this time Elsa isn't going into the unknown. The doll was mailed without a return address to a family friend in Minnesota. If the doll comes back, I might have to open my mind to some more supernatural solutions, the mom said. Luckily, the doll was received by their cousin in Minnesota, and one last final attempt of this on Facebook. And now for the rest of the story. She made it to Minnesota and is taped to the brush guard of my brother's Jeep. If anything weird happens, I'm welding her to a steel pipe and sinking her into a lake in the woods. She also added that... Okay, yeah, if you want to see this online, it's on Facebook. I'll put it in the show notes, but there's a lot added to it here as far as people's comments and stuff. But as of the last time this is updated, it's on the hood of a family relative's Jeep. This is crazy. So I do have a video of them messing with this doll when they found it outside when they got home. Just let me pause this music and pull that up.
Ojalá jugáramos en la nieve todo el tiempo. Hacer magia con nieve juntas es muy divertido. A mi hermana Ana y a mí nos gusta jugar en la nieve dentro del castillo. Soy la princesa Elsa de Arendelle. Es increíble. ¿Jugamos otra vez? Nieve y hielo, a brillar les ordeno. ¿No es divertido jugar en la nieve? ¡Qué bueno que somos amigas!
Your thoughts on what I just threw a lot at you there.
That was so weird. Oh man. The fact that it was in the backyard there after the double bagging and everything, that was really freaking weird. Especially with everyone leaving. I think it's described them as they all left.
They basically saw the trash truck take it away and left. Yeah, then they come back home from wherever and it was there.
That is so messed up. Oh, wow.
Can you imagine being that little girl and you go outside and it's outside your house like that?
Yeah, that's really spooky. Now, if it was somehow, not a supernatural thing and it was someone trying to play some sort of messed up prank, that's really messed up to, kind of like scare a little kid. And
you have to dig through a lot of trash to do this.
Yeah, that's something like a
sort through the trash, dig through it.
This is something that the hammer guy would try. The guy that's trying to beat his way into the basement door.
Yeah. No, I read this story and I was like, this is the craziest thing ever. Like,
Yeah, but if this is like some sort of like Chucky situation, then they got some different problems on their hands.
then you got a lot of professionals that have chimed in on this article and they said, like, well, it's probably not the doll that's haunted per se. It's something with your house. You should have got your house blessed or however you want to phrase it. You have anything happen again? Like, there's people chiming in on the story. Like, something happens again, you need to seek professional help. But how did you feel about? So I guess there's a glitch where it could go to Spanish, right?
Yeah, so it probably uses just a standard like microprocessor, and it probably has all the same languages that they produce the doll in, just so that they don't have to make more than one. They probably just have them all on there, and they probably set something on the inside of the doll to like go to a different language. And my guess is there's probably a button or something in there, but it's probably inside, so you're not supposed to be able to get to it. There is the outside chance that maybe something broke free in there and the button got smacked by being tossed around or something. But the fact that it kept coming back, that's really weird.
Does this explain for the fact they would do it when it was turned off?
No, that's very strange, and also the fact they said they didn't have to change the batteries ever. And yeah, that's a very weird wrinkle to the story. I'm just offering that would make sense that it probably would have all languages on there. There's definitely some other weird stuff with this story though. That is,
I'm about at 99% sure I had this doll. My daughter did, and I tried to locate it, but I can't before this. But I was curious too. I was like, I got to get one of these dolls and see. I'm pretty sure it's that exact same doll. That's why like this story I could relate to the story.
Yeah.
I was like,
I would like to see the insides of one of those dolls, see what the circuitry looks like that has, and see if it does have all the languages on there, or if there's some way of telling. But
would you like to see the inside of the doll to see how it broke out of the trash multiple times though?
That part you probably wouldn't be able to explain that way.
I can't imagine. So like the first time, right? It's hidden in their house and they find it weeks later.
Yeah, that's very strange.
I don't know. I thought the story was super creepy. I was like, I can't wait to share this one with Luke.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's really creepy.
So what did the article say here? It was like titled. It caught me like instantly. It was said, "They can't let it go."
Such a great title.
Yeah. So yeah, all credit to click2houston.com for their great article on that one. I enjoyed the hell out of that one.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
You ever experienced a scary toy or anything?
No, I do know I've known people talk about like Furbies being scary or something like that. I never owned one, but I just think everyone just got scared of it because they're freaking creepy looking. But yeah, I never had a scary story with a toy that I can remember.
Yeah, I had a cousin that said she would have it has a SpongeBob toy car, and even though the house is apparently haunted, I could share a different story about that another day. But my experience, but it would just start driving around on its own with no batteries in it. You often see like those things manifest themselves through toys, I guess.
Yeah,
which is weird, but maybe it's like a child, in child spirit or something. I don't know.
Well, they always, they catch them on like radio frequencies, right? And those things are all operate on some amount of radio frequency, so it's possible that something like that, it's just like catching them.
Moderator said they had a marionette puppet once. Had to rip that thing apart.
Yeah.
Was it scary?
It was if you're afraid of clown, there, it's like a clown puppet, and it was this is a while back, so Tales from the Crypt was on at the time.
Yeah.
And there was like a marionette clown puppet on there.
Yeah.
And seeing that very young, and then that clown puppet being tossed underneath a blanket at you, you will then immediately try to destroy it. Actually,
we need to find this Elsa doll and just put it in his room. He wakes up, like, not do it soon, right? Like a year.
Yeah.
Wakes up to an Elsa doll. Oh,
There you go.
man. He'd freak out. I know he's listening. That's why we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that some toys are really creepy. Like, I always think of those dolls. There wasn't like a clown one, but like Goosebumps also had that one. That
Mhm.
yeah. So like I know what you're talking. Those things are creepy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, toys can be creepy though. It's not the first time. And there's so many doll things out there, and
Yeah.
this is not like an uncommon thing. But for it to just keep coming back through that's pretty uncommon.
Yeah,
Can't get rid of the dang thing. But
that's pretty weird.
yeah, it's a cool story though.
Yeah, I liked it.
You've got one last story for the night. One
I
last,
do.
and it's going to be the best of all them, I assume.
I think it is. It's scary because of the nightmarish scenario. It's sad because it's your sad stories tonight. And it's true. This is 100%.
You're saying this is a 100% true story?
Comes from the BBC.
Can't hear you. Okay, let's redo that. You said this is a 100% true story.
Yeah, and it's because this story actually comes from the BBC News.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this is titled "When Time Stood Still: A Hiroshima Survivor's Story." Okay, let me get myself queued up here. Summers in Hiroshima were suffocating, and the morning of August 6, 1945 was no different from any other hot and humid day. Shinji Mikamo had taken the day off from his work as an apprentice electrician in the army to help his father clear their home, which was soon to be demolished. Months of air raids had caused devastating fires in the cities across Japan, so the government had decided to create fire breaks. Mikamo's house was one of those to be flattened. Makes no sense, growled Shinji's father, Fukuchi. But orders were orders. Shinji's mother, Nami, who was gravely ill, had been evacuated to the countryside, and his older brother, Takaji, was fighting in the Philippines. So, 19-year-old Shinji and his father were living alone in the city. Before long, Shinji himself was due to end his apprenticeship and join the army, so he too would most likely move away. They set to work after the usual wartime breakfast of millet and barnyard grass porridge. Fukuchi would joke, "I wake up early nowadays because I am fed bird food." Fukuchi looked at the pocket watch he always carried with him, a round watch fitted in the palm of his hand. The silver casting worn smooth by his touch. It was 7:45. Shinji climbed up onto the roof to remove the clay tiles. Neighbors had offered the homeless pair a room, but there was no toilet. They needed the tiles to make a roof for an outhouse. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. From this vantage point, Shinji looked out over the gleaming city. Down in the yard, Fukuchi called up to the son, not to daydream. Shinji quickened his pace. At nearly 8:15, he remembers lifting his right arm to wipe the sweat off his brow, when suddenly a blinding flash filled the sky. He recalls, "Suddenly, I was facing a gigantic fireball. It was at least 5 times bigger and 10 times brighter than the sun. It was hurtling directly towards me, a flame that was remarkably pale yellow, almost the color of white. The deafening noise came next. I was surrounded by the loudest thunder I have ever heard. It was the sound of the universe exploding. In that instant, I felt a searing pain that spread through my entire body. It was as if a bucket of boiling water had been dumped over my body and scoured my skin." Shinji was thrown into darkness as he was buried under the house. He became aware of his father's voice coming closer. Although he was 63 years old, Fukuchi was strong. He pulled his son from under the rubble and put out the flames that was licking his body. Shinji's chest and right side of his body were completely burned. "My skin hung off my body in pieces like ragged clothes," he says. The raw flesh underneath was a strange yellow color, like the surface of a sweet cake his mother used to make. My father and I looked at each other, frozen, Shinji said. The city around them had disappeared, reduced to ash and rubble. Shinji couldn't understand what had happened. It was as if the sun exploded. His father guessed the real cause immediately. They've demolished all the houses for us, he said. Guess they saved us some labor. There was no time to stand and talk, though. The ruined city was now on fire, and they had to take refuge. Shinji and Fukuchi headed toward the unfamiliar post-nuclear landscape to the river. While there, as bodies floated face down to the river, they soon witnessed another strange and terrifying phenomenon. The many fires across the city had created storm-force winds, which now combined into a tornado. A dark monster, Shinji says, that sucked up everything in its path. It picked up and threw down parts of collapsed houses, furniture, and water from the river. As it approached, people clung to whatever they could for safety. This new world was hard to understand. But once the fire and tornado had died down, Shinji and his father set off across the bridge in search of shelter. Walking was agony, not only because of his burned flesh, because of the large numbers of dead and dying bodies on the ground. My feet were charred and clumsy. Every step or so, I would unintentionally step on an arm or a leg and hear the person below me wince in pain. I felt like a vulture, crossing that bridge and leaving all those wounded people behind to die. Slowly, with my heart breaking to countless pieces, I stumbled forward. I did my best to follow exactly in my father's footsteps, hoping and believing he would know the path to save us both. The bomb had laid waste to Hiroshima. Out of its 45 hospitals, only 3 still functioned. There was no help, no medicine, no pain relief. Fully exposed on the roof, Shinji had been only 3/4 of a mile from the epicenter of the explosion. Shinji attributes his survival mostly to his father's strength. Whenever he wanted to give up, Fukuchi scolded him and said, "Don't slip into weakness so easily. We have made it through the worst." With barely any skin left to protect him, a little of Shinji's flesh scraped off with almost every step. When they were too weak to walk, he and his father would crawl instead. It took hours to cover short distances. He pleaded with his father to let him die, but Fukuchi was resolute. "You want to die? Don't say that word so lightly. As long as you stay alive, you will recover one day. The day will come, just a bit more to go." And eventually, they had a crucial stroke of luck. Returning again from the district where they had lived, they were recognized by Shinji's friend and fellow army apprentice. His name was Turo. As a civilian employed by the army, Shinji did have some privileges, so Turo was able to start pulling strings to get him evacuated for treatment. On the 9th of August, 3 days after the bombing, Shinji and his father were lying on the floor of a school in a village outside the city, along with dozens of other badly wounded people, when Shinji's thoughts turned to a disturbing incident the day before. As he and his father had made their way down to the Toshogo shrine, 2 soldiers had barred their way and told him to go back up the steps, an agonizing prospect. When Fukuchi protested, one of the soldiers spat in his face and told him to go to hell. In a society where the elderly were revered, this was deeply shocking, and yet Fukuchi had held it in his anger and turned away because staying alive was more important. It took them hours to make their way out through the back of the shrine, down a slope covered in prickly bushes and the splintered remains of wooden gateposts. Shinji cursed the soldiers with every painful step. Shinji couldn't understand how the soldiers could have treated them like that. Consumed with anger and hatred, he turned to his father for an explanation. "They were demons, weren't they?" he said. "They were evil, maybe even worse than the American bombers." Fukuchi replied calmly, "We are in hell right now. It's no wonder that we are seeing demons." He reminded his son of the angels they had come across, the neighbor who made the miso soup, Turo and his crucial intervention, the villagers who were attending to the wounded all around them. Shinji was forced to accept the goodness still existed. He fell asleep that night with tears of relief in his eyes. 2 days later, soldiers came to take Shinji to a field hospital. Father and son survived for 5 days, wandering through post-apocalypse Hiroshima. But now they had to part. Fukochi's unwavering gaze followed his son as he carried him out to a waiting army truck. When Shinji arrived in the hospital, the wounds on his legs were now badly infected. He needed draining of pus and maggots. His greatest pain, however, came from bed sores caused by the days of laying on the ground. One morning, a hospital volunteer noticed him wincing and promised she would bring him some pillows from home. The hope he felt at her promise soon turned to anger and despair as he waited all day for her to return. I felt hatred for this woman who had betrayed me so cruelly, he remembered. But then she did come back late in the evening with the promised pillows. She had been unavoidably delayed. The moment I saw her, my anger turned to shame. How could I have been so hateful in my thoughts? It was a turning point. He became determined to never make that mistake again. She was an angel who had returned to rescue me from my worst pain. She was also an angel who rescued me from the depths of my own anger. One morning, Shinji awoke to an unusual sight. The soldiers at the hospital were no longer wearing their swords. It was the 16th of August, a week after a second atomic bomb had dropped on Nagasaki. Japan had surrendered. The war had ended. Shinji was released from the hospital in October of 1945, a month earlier, and he had managed to send a postcard to his mother to let her know he was still alive. Now he went in search of his father. He found the ruins of their old home identifiable thanks to the distinctive patterns on the family's shattered rice bowls. Sifting through the charred remains, he made a heart-stopping discovery. A familiar round disc caked with dirt and soot. I clasped my hand around the metal mass and lifted my father's pocket watch from the debris. I recognized our house key attached to it. I turned the watch face up. The glass had been blown off, as had the watch hands. The metal was rusted and burned. The unimaginable intense heat had reached several thousand degrees Fahrenheit from the blast, had fused the shadows of the hands into the face of the timepiece, slightly displaced, leaving distinct marks where the hands had been at the moment of the explosion. It was enough to clearly see the exact moment the watch stopped. The watch had recorded the moment Shinji's world had been blown apart, 8:15. It stopped working the very moment of the blast, forever marking that moment in time. Holding the watch in his hands, he suddenly sensed he would never see his father again. The thought hit him like another atomic blast, he says. Standing on the ruins of his home wearing someone else's clothes, he thought of the beautiful photographs taken by his father, a professional photographer. They were now ash beneath his feet. The watch was his only link to a family that had been wiped out. Although he didn't know it yet, his mother Nami had died a few days after receiving his postcard, and his brother Takashi had been killed in action in the Philippines. What happened to his father he never discovered. As an orphan of war, Shinji struggled to survive and find a place in society. In Japan, then, the harmony and connections of family were everything, says his daughter Akiko. A man without family was no better than a criminal. So when he sought permission to marry Miyoko, the sister of a childhood friend, her father said no. The couple were forced to elope. The watch remained Shinji's only family heirloom. He felt it contained a part of his father's soul. Yet, in 1949, when Hiroshima was officially designated an International Peace Memorial City, he donated it to the Peace Memorial Museum. I wanted the watch and my father's name to be widely seen and known as a reminder about the destruction and the heroism that were displayed that fateful August day.
A lot to unpack with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just makes you realize how something so quick, like dropping that bomb, would be the devastation it would have, you know?
Yeah. people's lives evaporated, even if they didn't die instantaneously.
He never saw his dad again, really.
No, not after he got taken to that hospital. His dad, was also severely burned and had, radiation poisoning, but he wasn't in the Army, so he didn't have the same treatment.
Is this a morning or evening when it happened?
It was a morning.
Yeah, a lot of comments talking about be hard to comprehend the devastation of that. Yeah, it would your body and mind and everything would just want to tell you to give up,
Yeah, that's what he said. He kept on saying, "They'll let him die, let him die." His dad said, if he kept going, he'll be fine. And that goes on to, we were just talking about people surviving situations that you don't believe they should. This guy was 3/4 of a mile from a nuclear bomb and survived.
And the tornado they described is crazy too.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, most people don't know that we're like the only country that has like a ton of tornadoes, and we're the only one that has these big ones, the ones that are dangerous.
Right.
And so to see something like they've probably never seen that before, something like that.
Do you think it was actually a tornado, or is it from that somehow?
It was the wind kicked up from that, that vacuum and
yeah, it was able to create that effect.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's like an actual documented thing.
I don't know. It probably is. There's only so many times to document it. Thankfully.
Yeah, I asked that because, like, in American history, you always hear about crazy things happening, like when Washington was being burnt down.
Yeah.
Like a tornadic crazy storm moves through.
It also happened in Dresden. When they firebombed Dresden. It was so fierce. The winds of Dresden were so fierce. It was ripping people up out of the ground and taking them into the firestorm.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like what are the odds at the time of this? Or like in the Washington case where it helps put out the fire.
Yeah. Just, he even just said that they were in hell.
Someone said they think it's called a firestorm. I'm going to have to look more into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is like hell. That is like the very definition of hell.
His skin is peeling off his feet as he's walking,
and crawling. They have to take breaks. Whatever. I wonder what the whole area was that they covered. Even
it made it seem like they didn't make it very far in a very long period of time,
right?
Because they were just outside of their neighborhood, basically, or just a little bit past it when they finally met that guy. So they were probably a mile that they managed to get, crawling over all those bodies and stuff. Just a horrible situation.
On the flip side of that, what do you think? We talk a lot about the supernatural on this show from Scary Stories. Do you think like an area like that, like what kind of activity it would have if this did exist?
That's a good question. I would like to know, if there's anything on the planet that will cause supernatural events to occur, it has to be the bomb.
There's the devastation from it, you'd think.
Devastation, the sheer energy release that is so unwieldy and unnatural. You would think that if that was going to happen anywhere, it would be there. And I want to know, but at the same time, you kind of got to treat it with respect. You wouldn't want to be, barging in there and say, I'm going to go ghost hunting in Hiroshima. You'd be a horrible person. So maybe a lot of people aren't going there just because they're worried about the way it would look. But I am curious, do people who live there now, because people live there, and I want to know, did they see anything, or, it's not necessarily a culture that talks about it too much either. You're not supposed to really mention that stuff. So
speaking of mentioning stuff, can you imagine the thumbnails that Jack has to make for this episode?
Oh yeah, we did not take it easy on him. Yours are going to be more normal.
Well, I mean, is it normal? It's a doll. Then you're going to have this terrible thing. You're going to have WrestleMania thing, and it's going to be all over the place.
Yeah,
I'm speechless with this one, man. It's just so devastatingly terrible. I don't even know what to say.
It's an unholy powerful weapon. This is the opposite of good. in every way. And what happened there it's just nightmarish. It was inconceivable what happened to these people. It's inconceivable. You can't even begin to process the pain and agony created by it.
Yeah, you can't. I think the scary part is like tying this back into Fallout because that's what kind of
Yeah.
sparked this.
Yeah, and that's when I saw that movie, when I saw that show, that first episode, I saw that, I was like, man, it's scary. But then I was like, people actually lived through this. This actually happened.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and then when we started talking about stories, and I was already on to thinking about it. I was always thinking, I'll look to see if I can find the stories. And I found that one. I was like, oh my God, this is the best one. It's a little bit longer. It's not necessarily a scary story, like I said. It's
Pretty
just
scary.
I mean, it's a scary situation, and it's like it's probably the worst situation anyone can be in, and and it's he survived. He lived until very recently. I think it was 2014, 2015 when he passed away. So
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All because his dad just kept him going on, man.
Yeah.
That's a really historically neat story. I'm sure there's so many out there.
I think his dad's the only person who could take Gene Mo in a fight.
Yeah, for sure. That's crazy. I don't know. Well, man, I don't have anything else to say about it. I'm just kind of pondering. I'm going to be thinking about this.
Yeah.
See, when this happens, I tend to like get on my phone. I'm laying in bed. I start looking stuff up.
Yeah.
This is definitely what's going to happen because of this conversation.
There's one guy, at least one guy that I know of, who survived both bombs.
Oh.
He was in Hiroshima, and he lived in Nagasaki. And so the bomb went off, and he was flung against the building, and he didn't die, obviously, but they had to take him to his county's hospital, basically, like the hospital near his home. And he was in his hospital bed when the bomb dropped on.
Jeez. How far apart were they, the bombs being dropped?
I think it's like 6 days, something like that.
Jeez. This guy's like, man, I get over there, then it happens there. That's insane.
Yeah. Then he survived that one, though. He lived on to old age. So, like, it's just like some people.
No rhyme or reason,
Yeah, just keep going.
Maybe there's a rhyme or reason. I don't know, but it seems completely statistically not possible to survive both of them. So,
yeah.
Man, let's segue out of this. Let me find a clip for us to watch, then we'll come back with the story that we liked best of the night. See what I can find. You got me walking on eggshells with this one. I had a planned one, but I'm not going to be able to do that. Unless I can't find it, then I'm going to have to do it.
Was going to mock a nuclear bomb.
No, nothing like that. Nothing like that at all. Never, ever. Okay, I gotta. Yeah, I'll just go with this one. I don't know.
All right.
The other one is too lighthearted. It'll be for next time.
Okay.
Sit.
Take it easy, Yank. I didn't volunteer for this. No one got nothing they didn't deserve. I certainly didn't want to fight you.
Bullshit.
It's not bullshit. The military, they sent me to every hellhole on this earth. Just to do their killing. Then they disowned me. 4 years in an African prison. Taken out there twice a day by the natives. That's bullshit.
Sounds like you had a hard life.
Yeah.
Good thing it's over.
There wasn't really an appropriate one to use after you set the stage, but it's better than what I was going to do. Trust me.
Yeah. The editing on that's so weird when he shoots them. I don't know. Like his face is like.
Yeah. I kind of edited around it too, so it wasn't quite as like. There were probably several more shots.
He's like so shocked that he shot him. I don't know. It's so weird.
Somebody said hit him with the good thing. It's over. Yeah. You were watching this movie for the first time.
Oh yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, it's
I
a
feel
very
like
underrated movie.
I feel like Stone Cold kind of got screwed as far as like his movies go. Like, you know, it's after that you got like The Rock and John Cena getting like a million movies, right?
Yeah.
But I don't feel like Stone Cold Steve Austin was any lesser of an actor than those two. I
That
just
actually
feel
was
like
I thought that was a pretty good movie.
I think he just didn't get his niche. Like, you know, John Cena went with like action comedy,
Yeah.
and he
The
became
Rock's
super.
kind of everywhere.
Yeah, he became like the John Q everyman action star. You know, he was like
Thought of the
he
John
was
Q
like
movie when you said that.
I like that movie.
Yeah,
That
it's a really
was
good movie.
it's a-
Anyways, The Condemned, great scene there. What a terrible, vicious guy he was in that movie, that Vinnie Jones.
yeah, he is. That's actually one of the movies that made me really like Vinnie Jones, though.
Yeah, he does an amazing job in that movie. And plus, your nephew really had that tearjerker of that last scene.
Yeah, he did.
That Nickelback song comes on. I'm falling. He would just melt in the recliner couch or wherever. Remember?
Yeah,
Nickelback hit him so hard.
yeah, I think about that every time I hear that song.
Yeah, me too. It's been like, I don't know. It's
20
been
years.
at least 16, 17 years. And I will never think of that song any different from that. That song would just hit him so hard. Then it's the look at this photograph. That's the song that got him all emotional was that I'm falling. It plays at the end of this Condemned movie. I'm trying to think of what others. Show me what it's like to be the last one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end, like they take Stone Cold back to his girlfriend's house in Texas or wherever, and they drop him off, and he gets out of the car, and she like runs outside. You know what I'm talking about? She's like staring, and like the car passes by, and he's just like, then he does that grin. He's like, then it ends.
Yeah, he
Such
does
an
the
epic
Stone
movie.
Cold. Yeah.
Anyway, it has nothing to do with any of the stories tonight. So you tell
Absolutely.
me which story did you think was the most interesting, the best, the worst, whatever way you're thinking here.
You know, for me, I'm kind of biased towards it. It's gonna be the Hiroshima story.
Yeah, that last story was a doozy.
Yeah, I don't know. I just was like, when I read it, I was like, oh man, this is that. You know, it may not be like the perfect scary story, but it's terrifying in its own right.
Define perfect, because it might be the ultimate scary story.
Yeah, and so like I was like, this, I loved it, and I mean, I also really did kind of like the doll though. Like that's one of those like classic scary stories.
Yeah.
Like you don't know what's happening. It's creepy as heck because dolls are creepy, and yeah, I like that one too.
What about the fresh off the shelf WrestleMania story that just happened recently?
I did like that, but I felt like the doll one kind of just stole the show for me
Yeah.
as far as that goes.
Yeah, the doll one is. I don't know.
It's really good. Like it's a good story, and then the video.
We can't fathom the bomb,
No,
but we can fathom a spooky doll showing back up and how terrifying that would be.
Yeah. I could deal with that in my day to day life. And so,
Oh yeah,
and also I'm just like, yeah, I could picture that happening. Yeah,
yeah.
But I, you know, I've seen videos of the bomb. I've read stories about the bomb. If I saw the bomb, I don't think I could process it. I would probably just shut down.
It's definitely ties in and makes me want to play some more Fallout though, because that world post bomb is insane.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you don't know what we're even talking about, it's Fallout's a video game franchise, and they've have an adaptation of it in a TV, probably the best video game adaptation TV series or movie.
I would agree with that.
And yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. I suggest everybody check it out. And I wish we would have got ahead of it and we could have done some content on it because it's pretty good.
Yeah, well, you know, I didn't think it was going to be that good. I honestly didn't, and then I watched it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best show I've ever watched.
Yeah, guess it's not best since Max Payne. You think you meant Mad Max? We'll go with Max Payne. That's fine. I think of Mad Max, but
Max Payne was you know, the video game movie with Mark Wahlberg.
I never watched it. Even is it good?
It's pretty good. You know, if you like the video game.
Well, I mean, the video game, he has great memory, Max Payne, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So,
down to like how many sheets are left on the roll of toilet paper.
Yeah, he's very Mark Wahlberg-y in this, but it's it's pretty good.
I'm gonna have to watch it now. We've
Yeah.
played a lot of the video game though. I know that.
Yeah.
We used to always talk about how detailed it was. Remember?
Yeah.
He's,
I
I
took
remember.
2.3 steps forward.
Yeah, he remembers. His ability to recall information is just through the roof. It's like it's like John Madden's different, right? Like he just states the obvious.
Yeah.
But Max Payne, he just remembers everything that's ever happened in his life.
Yeah. And describes it all.
He does. Well, man, another great night of stories.
Yeah.
Had a little bit of mix of everything. I think it was a good mix, though. Like, had the more serious things. You had a couple of lighthearted things in there that I brought to the table. So I thought it flowed really well, and I hope people enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to, another week of, looking for other stories. I'll probably go with something a little more traditional next time, a little less serious and sad.
Yeah, this is one of those that's going to take its toll on me for a few days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of these stories are like the Joplin tornado one. That was one I was like, damn.
That was hard to get through. Like it was like just hard listening to all that stuff, and it was like, oh, this is gonna be a rough night.
Yeah, even the Howard Stern thing was like, this is messed up. I thought about it for days.
That was so creepy.
And this is going to be another one where I'm going to think about it for quite a while. So, anyways, I think that's kind of information. People need to hear those stories, though. Those are important parts of history. So,
yeah,
I'm glad we got to share that with people today. If you liked what you heard, or you like some more of the traditional stuff, we have a good mix of everything at yourscarystories.com. The show's available on YouTube at Podcast Father. Just type in Jeff Townsend or Your Scary Stories, you'll find it. And we've got a Reddit group and a Discord group, and I don't know anything about it, and I'll let you talk about that.
Reddit is Share Your Scary Stories. Discord is Your Scary Stories. Discord.
Your scary stories.
I don't know.
You're very Rory's.
I totally got tongue tied there. Your Scary Stories is our Discord. Both of them have links on the website at yourscarystories.com.
Well said, man. Anything else you got before I hit my thing and get out of here?
No, I just think that everyone should watch Fallout now, and Amazon should pay us money for mentioning it 150 times.
I think they should. I'll reach out to them about that. I won't hear anything, but I'll try.
Yeah.
All right. Until next time, keep being you and keep being great.
Jeff Townsend Media. CG, good night.
And the question is, do I stay here? Will you be back? Are you gonna come back? Will you be back? Are you coming back?